Hello, welcome back to Adventures in Luxury Travel. Today I am super excited to have Karen Fedorko here with me. Karen is in Turkey and is a Turkish expert, and I'm very excited to have her here today to talk all about the different beautiful places to see in Turkey, and of course, gullets and hot air balloons and all that wonderful stuff. So Karen, thank you. Welcome to the show. If you would, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you started with Sea Song and what inspired you to do that.
Thank you, Mimi. It's great to be here with you. I'm thrilled. I came to Turkey 20 or so years ago, and I had been in the fashion industry previously, and I decided that I wanted to do something different in Turkey. And I found that there was a really incredible niche in Turkey that was missing, and that was luxury travel. So I decided to open a luxury travel company. And after 21 years, we have built this company to be one of the most admired luxury companies in all of Turkey. Mm-hmm. So now we're expanding it and moving it forward. And, we're thrilled and positive that everything's just going to be great.
Okay, well, I'm so glad you're here. And for those people who don't know you, which is probably most people, you are married to a Turkish man, which obviously gives you a few other insights into the culture and the country beyond our American perspective. So anyway, I'm excited to dive in today. Let's start, as we always do, with sharing a map. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast, of course, you can go to the website and see the photos and the maps that we're talking about. But perhaps, Karen, you can give us a little idea of sort of the highlights of Turkey and where people enjoy going most.
Okay, great. This is a great opportunity to show you all the different regions of Turkey. At the top on the left corner where you see is Istanbul. Istanbul is the culture capital of Turkey. And that's where you can learn about the Ottoman and Byzantine empires. You can see all of the wonderful monuments. You have the Bosphorus, which is right in the center of Istanbul. You notice on the left, that's the European section of Istanbul. And on the right is the Asian side of Istanbul. Istanbul is the only city in the world between two continents. So it's very, very exciting to understand the history and the excitement. And taking a Bosphorus cruise is amazing in Istanbul. And then if you move to the center of the country, you'll see the region of Cappadocia. Cappadocia is a region. It's not a city or a town. And you can see all the different areas and villages that are within the Cappadocia region. And Cappadocia is our lunar landscape. It feels like you're on the moon when you go to Cappadocia. So it's someplace that you'll probably never see anywhere in the world. So it's a very special place to visit. This is where we do the hot air balloons, hiking, biking, ATV, horseback riding. So it's really the adventure place. And then if you move over and you fly over a 1-hour flight from Cappadocia over to Ephesus, you'll see one of the most important Roman cities in the entire world. And it's tremendously excavated. And some of the new excavations, like the Terrace Houses, have never been touched by any of the elements. So they've never been exposed to sun or to rain. And they're in perfect condition, the frescoes and the mosaics. So it's definitely a must to visit there. And there's a couple of other sites to see in the area. The Virgin Mary's house, they have a beautiful Ephesus museum. So that's extremely popular, also popular with the cruise ships that are coming into Kuşadası. And then if you drive down from Ephesus down to Bodrum, it's about 2.5 hours. Bodrum is our resort area. Which is an amazing, amazing place where we have wonderful luxury hotels. And, it's very trendy. And this is where we start our gulet sailing yachts. And we sail from Bodrum to Göcek, which I'll discuss a little bit later on. But you can see the culture capital is Istanbul. The adventure area is Cappadocia. The Roman city is in Ephesus, and everything about the sea is in Bodrum.
Perfect. That's a great overview. So we all know there are many, we go to many countries and we all want to go see everything when we get there. And sometimes it's hard because there's not enough time. But if you're going to do a highlights visit of Turkey, those are the 4 areas you need to hit. So thank you for that. All right, well, let's dive into some of the different experiences and places we can visit. So this is obviously a stunning photo for those of you who are listening. It's a beautiful mosque called the Blue Mosque with a blue backdrop of a gorgeous sky. So you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yes, this is probably one of the most important mosques in the city. It's the only mosque with 6 minarets. The minarets are the points that are sticking up, which is where they call to prayer. And they call to prayer 5 times a day. But this is a masterpiece. Inside is beautiful Iznik tiles, and Iznik tiles are made of stone. They're not made of clay. So that's why they've lasted for so long. So it's definitely a must-see when going into Istanbul and learning about the Ottoman Empire. This is an Ottoman building.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I only see 5 of the.
It's right in the back.
Okay.
I think it's lined up with the one in the front.
Behind it. Okay, got it. Well, as long as not one of them's not missing. And I'll just flip through some of these pictures, and you just feel free to tell us a little bit about it and maybe describe it some for those who are listening before they get a chance to watch it on video.
Okay. This is what we call the Underground Cistern, and this is where all the water supply was placed for the palaces in Istanbul. This was built during Byzantine times. You can see the ceiling is all made of brick, so that the water from the rain would come through the ceiling into the cistern. And it was underneath the ground because it was the best place to hide the water, because when they got attacked, they would always try to cut off the water supply to the city. And the Ottomans and the Byzantines didn't want anybody to find their water, so they put it underground.
Wow. Amazing. And so many places like this, you learn all these little details when you go there to visit. And this was done how long ago? Do you know approximately when was this built?
It was built in the, in BC.
Right. So
very
thousands of years ago. Right. They were good strategic building processes and tactics, I guess. And so the Grand Bazaar, it looks absolutely stunning with all these beautiful lanterns and colors. This is also in Istanbul, correct?
Yes, this is in Istanbul. It's the oldest shopping mall in the world, and it's the largest shopping mall in the world. There's 4,000 stores in the Grand Bazaar. Wow. And it's a place where you can go and spend hours hunting for treasures, having fun with all the merchants, bargaining, finding, something special, whether it's a ceramic, whether it's a light, whether it's a carpet, whether it's jewelry, whether it's leather. I mean, you can go through all the streets and, sometimes even get lost, but it's really worth it. And it's a lot of fun to bring those treasures back home.
Absolutely. And just the sights and the smells and the sounds of the culture are beautiful when you get a chance to go markets or shopping in other cultures and countries. So that's one of my favorites. All right. How about this one?
This is the Santa Sophia. The Santa Sophia is it's the most important monument in Byzantine times. This was a mosque. It was a church. It was a museum. And now it's been turned back into a mosque. But it still has some of the most beautiful mosaics inside, which you can still see. The second floor has also some beautiful mosaics, and it's definitely a must-see. And it's right across the street from the Blue Mosque. So the Hagia Sophia is the power of the Byzantine Empire, and the Blue Mosque is the power of the Ottoman Empire.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. And this, the domes and the beauty of the ceilings in this section are gorgeous. Tell us about this.
This is the inside of the Topkapi Palace, which we call the Harem. The Harem is where the sultans actually lived with their families, with their harem, with their wives, with their slaves. This is where they lived for 600 years. So many, many sultans have lived in this area. It's been completely renovated. The tiles on the walls are beautiful. There's lots of stories to tell. So it's definitely a must. It's a separate section in the palace that you don't want to miss.
Okay. It is beautiful. And then another bazaar experience. Tell us about all these. I know I've been to bazaars like this in Morocco, and it's similar. The smells, right, with so many different spices and all the beautiful colors. It's just a feast for the senses, for sure. Tell us about this one.
The Spice Bazaar was a trading center, and all of the spices came from all over the world into Istanbul, and all the merchants sold the spices. When you go into the spice market, it's probably the most interesting experience because you really feel like you're in the Orient when you walk into the Spice Bazaar, the smells and the atmosphere. And it's very different than the Grand Bazaar. It's more about food and, spices and, nuts and apricots and all of the different items that you would use for cooking and eating. It's wonderful.
Beautiful. And I imagine, I'll deviate for a second, but experiences about, doing experiences with local families, cooking or with a chef or doing tasting tours. Those are a few of the different things that you all organize. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have a great cooking class that we do, and we go to the Spice Bazaar first to get some of the spices from the Spice Bazaar, and then go and do the cooking class. And the cooking class is all Turkish cuisine. So you really get an opportunity to try the Turkish cuisine and make the Turkish cuisine. And you can do it at home. You can bring your recipes home. Mm-hmm. We also have Backstreet culinary tours where we take you back into the side streets and you meet the pickle guy and you meet the profiterole guy and you meet, the baklava makers. So it's really, there's a lot of excitement around cuisine in Istanbul.
Yes, and we all know it's delicious. I live in a place where we don't have a lot of different ethnicity foods. We have some, but we happen to have a Turkish restaurant about 15 minutes away, and it is one of the most popular ones. We absolutely love it, with actually a little store across the street. So I have a tiny bit of turkey here in New Hampshire and Vermont. And moving on to this beautiful palace. Tell us about this one.
This is the main entrance to the Topkapi Palace. I mean, the Topkapi Palace is probably one of the most important palaces in Istanbul. We have two others, the Dolmabahce Palace and the Beylerbeyi Palace, but they came later. They came in the 1800s. This one is from Ottoman times. Actually, it was Byzantine, and the Ottomans built their palace on top of the Byzantine palace. So there's a Byzantine palace underneath this palace, and you can see certain areas of the Topkapi Palace where the Byzantine palace is underneath. But everywhere in the old city, there's a Byzantine palace underneath the ground. But it's spectacular. They have a great treasury. They have the Harem, as we discussed. They have the costumes of all the sultans. They have their swords. So it's really about, how the sultans lived. They have kitchens. So it's really fun to explore the way they lived, over the 600 years.
And, the facade of it from this perspective, it looks very sort of fairy tale, like the two spires on either side. It looks like it could be out of a fairy tale.
Yeah, I think it is.
All right. Well, let's transition now to Cappadocia, we are leaving behind a little bit of the sort of cultural, section of Turkey and going for the more adventure active part of Turkey. This is a beautiful view. Can you describe it for everybody who's listening?
Yeah, this will start to give you a taste of the lunar landscape, where you're hiking in the valleys, you're hiking into the caves, and you're just, seeing all these beautiful rock formations. And it's really a hiker's dream because there's so many valleys that you can hike in easy, medium to very difficult. But it's the place for people that really want to do some hiking.
Yeah. And I believe also there's mountain biking around there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
An ATV, horseback riding, very active area.
Okay. And then many people, this photo doesn't do it quite justice because it's not huge and splashy and colorful, but most of us in the world have seen a picture of the gorgeous hot air balloons flying over Cappadocia. They're all, in varying colors. Tell us a little bit about what is this experience like, and what's the best time of day to do it based on the weather, and any other sort of insider tips about hot air ballooning in Cappadocia.
I would say first that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You get up very, very early in the morning, pick you up about, say, 5:30 in the morning. You go to the takeoff site and they start to blow up the balloon. So they put the hot air into the balloon and the balloon starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're watching it and you're getting ready. You're going to go up. And once the balloon is ready, you get into the basket. Everybody gets into the basket, and then the basket is standing up, and all of a sudden it starts to lift off the ground because the hot air is taking the balloon up. So you're going up into the sky and you're looking over this incredible lunar landscape. And I keep saying lunar landscape because that's what it looks like. Lots of valleys. You have the red valley, you have, yellow color valleys, you've got different shapes. I mean, this is the best way to see Cappadocia by the air. So you fly for about an hour or an hour and a half, depending on how long you sign up for. And then it's time to land. So once it's time to land, they figure out where they're going to land depending on the wind. And then they start to bring the balloon down. So they're letting some of the air out of the balloon, and you're starting to come down. The pilots can control up and down, but they can't control like east or west. So they can bring the balloon down and they can bring the balloon up. So they start to bring the balloon down, and then they land in a field. It's usually very simple. Sometimes they land on the trailer. It depends on the pilot. And then you get out of the balloon, the basket, and they have a nice celebration for you with nice flowers, a little champagne cocktail, some nice goodies, and T-shirts and hats so that you can always remember.
Sounds lovely. And just out of curiosity, about how many balloons are up there on a busy day?
On a normal day, there would be up to 100 balloons up, maybe between 70 and 100 balloons.
Okay. And so obviously they're staying far enough away to be safe, but are you up there waving at the people in the other balloons? Like, can you actually see each other? I'm curious. I've never had so many balloons around.
You can see the other people, but they don't allow you to get too close. I mean, it's all controlled by, it's air traffic control. It's all controlled by air traffic control. And so nobody can get close. And if there is somebody close, they'll radio you and tell you that there's somebody close. So, they're very careful about, preventing any accidents or any issues. So it's very well controlled.
Well, it's been on my bucket list for a long time, so I'm looking forward to actually getting out there and doing it one of these days. All right, let's look at these. This looks beautiful. Obviously very different than a sky and a hot air balloon. Tell us a little bit about this.
This is what we call the Gourmet Open Air Museum. And the Gourmet Open Air Museum is a perfect example of the early Christians that were living in the rocks. They would dig their homes into the rocks because the rocks are very soft. It's called tufa, and it's very similar to limestone. So you can carve it out of the stone very easily. And they lived in these caves, hiding from the Romans, because at the time they weren't allowed to preach Christianity. So the Romans were trying to find the people that were doing it. And when they looked on the plain, they didn't see anybody. So the Romans just turned around and left. Meanwhile, they were all under the ground. So they were safe from, invasion by living in these caves. And they built their churches in the caves. You can see the crosses on the church here. And they made wine in the caves. They brought their animals in the caves. They had very sophisticated air flow inside. They had kitchens inside, and they always had a valley. So in the valley, there was usually water, and they could grow their vegetables, and they could have trees. So it was an interesting life they lived, and you can see it, you can live it, you can understand, what they did.
Yeah, beautiful. And when you visit places like this, obviously with a guide, it's so much more, rich and depth of knowledge and history and culture that you get. So highly recommend doing these sorts of excursions with a guide. And so tell us a little bit about this one. This is underground.
This is an actual underground city. It's the Kaimaku underground city. And this is where people lived underneath the ground. So like I said before, they had everything that they needed, their kitchens, their animals, their ventilation systems. So, they were hiding. So it was the perfect place for them to live. And you can go through the caves, you can see what it was like living in there. And it's really very interesting to understand. And I agree, yes, you should definitely see with a guide, and we have amazing guides.
Yeah, I know you do. All right, and then here's another example of the lunar landscape from Cappadocia. It's interesting. So this one is very brown, lots of different shades of brown, and obviously some shadows, whereas the one with the balloons had a lot of varying colors. And you were saying different valleys have different looks to them?
Yes, these formations have formed over hundreds of thousands of years. So they came from volcanoes, the wind. So all of these formations were formed naturally. They were not man-made. So every area is different depending on the wind or, how much lava came from the volcano. So, and the colors are different because of that, different minerals. You can see some fairy chimneys in the back where they have, it looks like they have a little chimney at the top. And there's various shapes of the chimneys. Here you can see a real good example of the fairy chimneys and how the rocks were all different colors. You can see the white rocks at the bottom and the dark rocks at the top. And that's one area. Another area will look completely different.
Okay. Well, it is beautiful and such a beautiful contrast against the blue skies as well. So this is clearly a very ancient library. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Okay. So when you arrive to Ephesus, you'll arrive to the top gate of Ephesus and you'll start to walk down through the site. The Celsius Library, which you're seeing on the screen right now, is probably the most important site within Ephesus. It's the most beautifully excavated, and they found it pretty much in this shape, and it was just sticking out of the ground before they started to renovate it. But Ephesus has been under excavation for over 100 years. So it's very well excavated, and you can really get a sense of how the Romans lived in the city. It was at its heyday, like between the 1st and 2nd century AD. And then there was an earthquake in the 3rd century that destroyed the city. So everything basically went down in the earthquake. So then they had to build everything back up. But everything was pretty much intact. So this is a beautiful, you can do concerts and cocktails and special openings of this library for, 2 people, for 100 people. It depends.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, that would be a magical place to have cocktails, a reception or a private dinner. And then staying in Ephesus, tell us a little bit about this beautiful old, I assume, Roman theater.
Yes, we call this the Great Theater. And in Roman times, this could hold 25,000 people. And they didn't have like gladiators, and they didn't have animal fights and things like that like they did in the Colosseum. They had more concerts. They were more into music and love and, just beautiful art. This was a very artsy city. So there was always concerts and music here. We did have some concerts with rock groups or whatever, but they stopped those because the stones were starting to come loose. But they're doing a big excavation on it now. It's really magnificent and beautiful, and beautifully lit up at night.
Mm-hmm. And then some more beautiful buildings that have been excavated. Tell us a little bit about the terrace houses.
Yeah, the terrace houses are a very special part of Ephesus. Recently excavated. They were under a big mound, And before they even touched anything, because they knew there was something that was magnificent under the ground, they got sponsors to build a tent over the whole mound.
Mm,
And they started excavating. They didn't excavate until the tent was in place and everything was ready for the excavation.
mm,
And then they started the excavation. So all of these frescoes on the wall and all of the mosaics on the floor, every room has mosaic floors and every wall has frescoes. And all these are original. And none of them have ever been exposed to the elements of the sun or the rain or anything. They're in perfect condition. And like I said, the earthquake actually just dropped the entire homes flat, so you can see the floors are in perfect condition
mm.
because they didn't break. But it's spectacular. It's something that you just can't miss. It's a separate section, but and some people never go because they don't know.
Yeah.
But it's important to make sure that you see this. It's very spectacular.
Well, that's why I like having people like you on the show, so you can tell us what other people might miss that we absolutely must see. All right, so now we're going to transition more to the coast and the water. And for people who listen, I think a lot of people know one of my favorite types of family trips is chartering catamarans or sailboats. And so in Turkey, you have that, but you guys have your own special type of boat called a gulet. And I know we have a variety of pictures we can share, but tell us a little bit about what it's like to charter one of these and maybe go into a little bit about ideal time frame or some of the stops that are must-sees and any other sort of insights you have about that.
Great. You can see the gulets. They're wooden sailing yachts. They're built in Bodrum, and they have sails. They don't use the sails that often, but they do. They have motor also. They're anywhere from 2 cabins up to 6 cabins. You can have a maximum of 12 people on them. They're great for families, incredible for families. Nice isolated vacation. Also for friends. We have smaller gulets for honeymooners and couples. So this particular product is good for a number of travelers coming to Turkey. And you can see how beautiful the water is.
Mm-hmm.
You can look down to the bottom of the sea and you can see the bottom. I mean, it's crystal clear. Beautiful turquoise, and the landscape changes as you move to different parts.
Mm-hmm.
This is looking from the Bodrum Castle where we usually start, and you can see the gulets. They're waiting out there for their clients to get on board.
Mm-hmm. And I know I had included one of the photos, I think from you guys, with a table set probably for 12 for if you had a party or you're planning on going with a group of 5 or 6 couples. It's a great destination to do this for families, but also for couples, because you're going from town to town, you're spending your days jumping in the water, eating delicious food, and then going and exploring on land a couple of hours every day. So I think it's a great, and like you said, for honeymooners too, it's a great option when you come to Turkey.
Yeah.
Here's some more.
This is a little tiny town called Bozburn, which is on our route from Bodrum to Göcek, which is another beautiful area. And this has a wonderful yacht club. So you can do some water sports in the morning, and then you can go have lunch at the yacht club, and then you can get back on the gulet and move on to your next destination. You can see how calm the water is. And now you're starting to get more desert-like. In the topography there. Mm-hmm. So it's a beautiful little town.
And if I remember correctly, Bodrum has a beach club too, right? That you guys, have you been to the Bodrum Beach Club?
They have many beach clubs.
Okay. Maybe.
Throughout.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so is there one specific one that's called the Bodrum Beach Club?
The most popular one is the Machakazi Beach Club.
Okay.
And the Machakazi Beach Club is like the cool place, trendy, really,
okay.
Wonderful people, great cuisine, and just a really nice atmosphere.
And good people watching too.
Yeah, excellent people watching.
And this looks stunning. So you're just going off on your gulet, and you're not just looking at trees and hills on the side. Tell us a little bit about what this is showing us.
This is an excursion from the Gourmet. We take the clients and put them on these little river boats. So you get on the riverboat and you go down the Dalian River, which is all full of reeds. It's very different atmosphere than, being on the Aegean. And you'll go by these Lycian rock tombs, and the rock tombs are from the Lycian period. And then the Romans fluff them up a little bit because this is where they bury their dead, and the Romans wanted them to be more beautiful. So they fix them up. And as you go through the river, you'll end at the ancient Kaunos. And ancient Kaunos is an ancient site where you can go in and see. They have beautiful baths, and it's just a wonderful ancient city. And then on the way back, you take your little riverboat and you stop for lunch. Your riverboat docks and waits for you. And then you have your seafood lunch, get back on your riverboat, and the riverboat takes you back to your gulet.
Perfect. Sounds like a perfect vacation day. And then, so here's Datka. This is another one of the stops you're making on your gulet.
Yep. This is a wonderful stop because actually the Dacia Peninsula is very difficult to get to by land because the roads are very bad. So it's perfect for gulet sailings. So we stop here, and they have a wonderful little old town. They're famous for their honey and for their olive oil and for their little shops, and everything is with stone houses. It's very ancient and old. And then we have a mansion there where you can have dinner, you can have lunch, an old Ottoman mansion that's been beautifully restored. So in these little places where you stop, there's a lot of things that we've researched that we want to show you when you're exploring these areas.
And that's what's really nice about being on the boat. I mean, you not only have a captain and crew, but they're also, guides. They also have obviously a lot of knowledge about the history and the culture and all the fun things to see and do on all these little ports that you stop in.
Absolutely.
This is a stunning photo. So here's your gulet. It's just waiting for you in Turkey. Hop on board, take a nap right there on the couch.
Yeah, this is the life. This is what it's like.
Well, this is why we all work so hard at work, right? So that we have opportunities to come and stay on some of these beautiful boats and see these gorgeous places. And what I love about this one, it gives you a bird's eye view of what it's like looking down at the sea. And it looks, stunning. Like, it's obviously right next door to Greece. So the water is similarly beautiful. Tell us where this particular place is.
This is near Fethiye. It's called Oludenis, but you can also see that these are like small islands, and you can only get to them by boat. So when you find a little area, you're all alone. You're in a beautiful cove. You can have your lunch. You can swim. You can swim to the shore, and it's just it's a great experience. Being out in the sea with not a lot of people around you, and finding that special location where you can just enjoy.
Yeah. It's just like Greece and Croatia. If you go on a vacation there and you don't go on the water, you're missing so much because there's so many places that, people don't stay overnight in. If you're on a boat, you can hop from island to island all afternoon, right?
Yes. And even if you can't stay for a long time, you have to take a gulet out for the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's an option as well. How many days would you say is typical, or what's the range of days that people might want to go on a gulet in Turkey?
Generally, it's 7 nights, and it's Saturday to Saturday, but we do 5 nights in some cases, depending on the availability. So between 5 and 7. Okay.
Here's some of the happy crew that might be taking you out on the gulet. And then, so this is an example, the coastal area and the islands that are part of Turkey versus the ones that are part of Greece, it looks like, right?
Yeah. You can see where the airport signs are at Bodrum, and then also to the right, you can see the airport sign in Dalaman and Göcek. So you're going from Bodrum and you're coming around the Gulf of Gokova. You're passing Dacia, which we talked about. And then you're going to Bozburn, which is on the right. And you're going right in between Simi and Turkey. So Simi's in Greece and Turkey. So when you're going through that canal, you can almost touch Greece and Turkey. They're so close. It's pretty amazing. And then you come through up to Marmaris, where we saw the Lycian rock tombs and the little riverboat, and then down to Fethiye, where the Oludenis beach is, and then up to Göcek. We also do some Greece and Turkey combinations. So you can go from Bodrum and you can see Kalemos and Leros and Patmos, and you can bounce back and forth between Greece and Turkey. So there's a lot of fun itineraries that we can work on depending on your special interests.
Yeah, who's going and what they like to do. There's just some more great photos. When you're chartering one of these, you have lots of toys that can come with it. So going out kayaking for the day, or certainly snorkeling. Do some of them have stand-up paddle boards, I presume?
They all do.
Yeah, okay.
And don't forget the jet ski.
And the jet ski, right. So I think it's important whenever I talk, we did a show once on chartering yachts and catamarans, and it's important to know what the toys are on the boat, because they do make a difference when you're looking for fun things to do and ways to explore. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about road trips, I think, and that's what this map is showing us.
Yes, we are starting to see a lot of requests for people that just really want to travel throughout the countryside. They want to spend more time in Turkey, between 10 and 14 days, and they want parts of their trip to be on the land rather than flying. So we developed some road trips. One that is very popular is from Istanbul down to Izmir, down to where Ephesus is. And we start in Istanbul, and we go through the wine country and do wine tasting. And a lot of people don't realize that we have amazing wines in Turkey, because we don't export our wines. And when they get here, they taste the wines and they say, I never knew that Turkey had such great wines. But the soil in the area, outside of Istanbul is very similar to Bordeaux. So they're producing world-class wines in the Tekirdağ and the Chateau Kalpak area. And we have a lot of investment in nice boutique hotels where you can stay and really feel the culture and really be a part of the land as you're traveling through this part. This is Avajati, yes. It was an old Greek village many, many years ago.
It looks
and
like
now it's been completely restored. You can see the beautiful stone houses and all of the areas where the ladies used to sit and watch everybody go by. It's a spectacular area. It's called Avajati.
It looks beautiful. And then picking up a bicycle and riding around to get some exercise. That's always fun.
Yeah, get your bike down to the beach.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I get excited.
The delay. It's okay.
This is one of our best wineries. It's really, really amazing. They produce world-class wines, and this is on the route. So you get to visit, some really interesting wineries.
Well, that looks stunning. And it's funny, I think you guys aren't the only country to be smart and keep all the best wines to yourself and not publicize it to the world. I think it's a good strategy. What would you say, as we talk about, before we go, favorite hotels like in Istanbul for somebody who really likes a sense of place, who really wants to feel like they're in the authentic, country that they're in Turkey? What are some of your favorite places?
I think in Istanbul, it's really important to understand how people live and how they evolve around the Bosphorus. The Bosphorus is the waterway that I talked about between the Asian and the European side. And especially in the summer, like now, everybody's on the Bosphorus. So to be at a hotel that's on the Bosphorus is really super important, and you really get the feel of Istanbul. You get a different perspective. I would say the Four Seasons Bosphorus is really beautiful. We have the Turan Palace, Kempinski, which is also a wonderful hotel. It's an old palace, so you feel like you're living in an Ottoman palace. We have a new Mandarin Oriental opening also on the Bosphorus. We have Shangri-La on the Bosphorus, and we have a Peninsula Hotel opening on the Bosphorus. So the Bosphorus is really the place.
popular place to be. Well, those are some good ideas. And then what about in some of the, the smaller towns and out near Cappadocia? What are some of your favorites over there?
Cappadocia, it's important that you stay in a cave hotel because you really get the feeling of how the people lived in the caves. But these are luxury, modern, Real Chateau, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest my favorite is the Museum Hotel and also the Argos Hotel. And we have some smaller properties like the Eunuch House that are important. So, stay in a cave hotel. They're not claustrophobic. They have lots of windows. They're beautiful. And you really get the sense of place.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's another similarity with Greece. They have lots of cave hotels in Ia. I'm sure they're very different cave hotels, but I also love staying in cave hotels there. So that gives you, it's so fun to stay in a place where it's a little bit unconventional, right? It's not like a typical looking hotel room in any big city in any country of the world. So that sounds like a great piece of advice. And what about some of the, maybe down in Alicante, in the smaller towns? Curious about, are they mostly small little boutique places, number one? And how many relay and chateaus do you have in Turkey?
We only have one.
Oh, just one. Okay.
Museum Hotel. Yeah.
Okay. Good idea to stay there then.
Avajati has a beautiful hotel called Alavia. And it's an old stone house, a couple of houses that were made into a small resort. All of the hotels in the North Aegean area are all small boutique hotels, and a lot of investment from Istanbul. Turning mansions into hotels, and you're talking about maybe maximum 20 rooms. Some have 4 rooms, but they're beautiful. They're very high quality and very nice in the middle of the wine country or in the middle of the olive groves. So, it's really authentic and real.
Yeah, and just very special and unique. So I think that's what I really like about Turkey and Greece for that matter. So they could be, so if somebody is coming over and they want to do Greece and Turkey, I mean, at a minimum, I feel like everywhere I'd want to stay somewhere for 2 weeks. But if that's not possible for people, if they're going to combine Greece and Turkey, maybe a week in each, and or if they're going to just Turkey, what do you think? Is 10 days enough to do? Maybe 5 nights on a gulet and some Cappadocia, Istanbul, Bodrum time?
I would say the minimum would be 7 nights, in Turkey. 7, 10, and then 14. So 7 would be, Istanbul and Cappadocia. Then it would be Istanbul, Cappadocia, and Ephesus as 10. And then Istanbul, Cappadocia, Ephesus, and Bodrum, which could be 12, could be 14, depending on how long you want to stay. You want to be in a resort or go on a gulet. But we do have a lot of combinations of Greece and Turkey, where they stay a week in Greece and a week in Turkey. It's a very nice combination and, very similar cultures. And, it's a good match.
Yeah, it seems like a good match. And as far as seasonality goes, what are your thoughts on, obviously, Europe is very popular for Americans in the summertime. Is there a better time of spring, summer, fall to be, for example, on a gulet? Let's start with that.
I would say the best time for the gulets is June to October.
Okay.
Any earlier, the water's a little cold.
Okay.
And later into the season, it just becomes too late. So the July and August period is the high season where it's very difficult to even find a gulet because everybody wants to be there in the summer. But I prefer, actually, personally, June and September because it's not crowded, the water's beautiful, and it's just magical.
I think for those people who can travel in those shoulder seasons, right, just over before school vacation gets out for the summer or after kids go back to school, huge bonus. Some of us who have children who bring their kids or their teenagers or college kids traveling with them don't always have that luxury. And so if you can, just try and maybe perhaps do it the very beginning of summer or the very end of summer, and that'll help you a little bit with the crowds. Are there a lot of Europeans who are coming to Turkey in the summer as well?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's certain areas where certain European nationalities like to go.
Yeah.
So, they choose their areas. Um, but I would say, from an American point of view, Istanbul, Cappadocia, Ephesus, and Bodrum are the most popular, and the
Hmm.
gulet sailing yachts.
And the gulet. Yeah. Okay. Terrific. Well, very good advice. Thank you. This has been a wealth of information for me and everyone else watching or listening. So I really appreciate you sharing your time and your expertise. I love having you as a resource for trips to Turkey because you obviously have a depth of knowledge and a breadth of knowledge that is a great resource for me. So thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you, Mimi, for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to planning some Turkey trips with you, and I look forward to getting over there myself. So,
whatever you need, we're here for you.
Perfect. All right. Well, we will for sure be in touch. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.